and this is sort of a relaunch. I'm very excited about it. So for those of you who haven't caught previous The Kitchen episodes, this is episode 101, so big deal, why not? New century. And also this is the first video in my new kitchen, which I'm very excited about. However, I still don't know where all the things are, so bear with me as I start to go through this. If you're new to these videos, the reason why I call it The Kitchen is because I was raised in a house where everything took place in the kitchen, not just the food. So sure, food, drinks, and because the food and the drinks were there, maybe that's where the people gathered mostly, but everything took place in the kitchen. Nothing's going on anywhere else but in the kitchen. This is where we gathered. This was coffee and biscuits. This was the cooking. This was the cleaning. This was the gossip. This is where we were. So I really feel a connection to the kitchen, and I was really excited to get my new kitchen pulled together here. So here's our first video. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about getting a lot of questions about lunches. What do I eat for lunch? We're coming into springtime, so potentially we're trying to zhuzh up our lunch a little bit with the new season. So what I wanted to do today was go through a little bit of an antipasto big batch thing. I'm big on big batch things because a lot of times we're busy and we're like, I can't cook, I can't assemble. So if we make something that can last just a few times, or it can be a little bit of it has a little bit of versatility, we do a little bit better with it. So this is going to be a huge antipasto batch that we're going to make that we could put out as an antipasto. We could just eat it as it is. But what I like to do also, I usually try to get these bins of greens that are all pre-done for you. So typically what I do is I'll take half of this out, put it into a container, and then I'll make 2 salads for myself when I'm doing this. And I put all different types of things into there. So this is a really good way we can make an interesting salad without chopping a gajillion things. When I talk about chopping a gajillion things, people get all upset because we don't like to chop if it's not something that you have been doing for a very long time. So what I would recommend is making sure you have a good knife for the chopping. Okay, so this is a good knife for getting in there and chopping things up, which I like to wave around, which is not safe, but this is how I grew up, waving knives and wooden spoons. I will say over here, if you're trying to chop with a little knife like this, you're gonna get frustrated. So just make sure you've got the right knife and make it a little bit easier on yourself. So I have this big bowl here. So we're just gonna throw everything into the big bowl. And I was doing this earlier in the week, and I realized that I had gotten regular olives with the pits in them, which I really do like because I like to kind of chew the olive off of the pit. However, I'm going to be using also some cherry tomatoes in this, and I got all different colors there. So those darker ones, they can kind of look like an olive. So I don't want anyone to break a tooth by mistaking an olive for a tomato. So check your olives to see if you've got some pitted olives. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain out a little bit of what's going on in the olives, but I'm going to keep a lot of it. And I'm dumping everything right into the bowl here. Oh, look at that. They're coming out. That's 1 little olive, 2 little olives that are, all right, so we're going to have to kind of use it. Now these, as I'm dumping them all out here, I wanted to show you, I got jalapeno stuffed olives. We're gonna have to just help them all out here a little bit. Okay, get them all in there. So I'm throwing the whole jar in there, and I like doing things like this because it's easy. You just open the whole jar, and honestly, there's so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, I'll just put half the jar, 3/4 of the jar. It's ridiculous. Throw the whole jar in. Okay, so we've got those kind of olives in, and these are gonna give me a little bit of a spice. Or jalapeno stuffed, and then who doesn't like a Kalamata olive? So I'm gonna also put this in. Again, a little bit of the juice I'm gonna drain out, but not all of it, because I'm gonna kind of allow that to be part of the dressing when I serve it over greens. And once everything is all mixed, it'll pick up all those vinegars in there, And like I said, I kind of use the vinegar as a base of the dressing. It does help with digestion. It lowers the glycemic index of things, which is why it's that digestion. Now I'm gonna come into, well, let's dump everything that needs to be dumped first, and then we'll go into chopping mode. So I've got my tomatoes in there, I've got my olives in there, and I think we've got to go to chop mode now. All right, so let me bring you down here to my board so you can see what I'm gonna do here. So I'm gonna just move my big bowl over here. I've got a cucumber here. So you can always cut your cucumbers into cute little wagon wheel sizes. However, I'm gonna work on bite-sized things today since we're making a salad. So I'm just gonna slice my mini cuke down the center one time, and then again on each of these. So I'm gonna get like quartered, and then we'll just slide that down. And the very fun part here is that you don't really need to be super precise about your chopping, okay? It's just a rough chop. If they're not all uniform, not a big deal. We're just really looking for bite-sized things here. The next thing I got for my antipasto here is some artichoke hearts. And this is in oil and vinegar. So I'm gonna try to just pull some of these out. Then I'll drain it over here a little bit. And then I can kind of just dump this out onto my bowl. And I do have a little bit of oil, so I'm gonna get rid of that. So this is, again, it's a rough chop, so I can just kind of go through instead of, chopping up each one by itself. They do tend to kind of fall apart, and that's really what you want. You know, the more pieces and the more corners that you have exposed, the more flavor you're gonna have with your food. This does have a lot of the flavor, so I do like to get it a little bit smaller and chop that up there. Okay, all right, so let's get that going on into our bowl here. Okay, all right. And use the back side of your knife if you're doing this little scoop thing, so you're not using that sharp edge, right? Okay, so the next thing, I don't think I was gonna chop these banana peppers here. I don't think I'm gonna chop those up. You get the label there. I think what I'm gonna do is, I had this issue before. You wanna try to maybe open up all your jars before your hands get damp. It's a little bit easier. So with these banana peppers, I'm gonna take out most of them. Yeah, so we'll just have a few banana peppers in there. All right, and then my last thing that I'm gonna chop here is some red peppers. And this is gonna be kind of like, maybe not the whole jar, because I have a giant jar of these red peppers here. So this is really big. So I'm gonna just take out, let's do, again, if you love red peppers, maybe toss the whole thing in. So we've got this here. Again, there's a little bit of oil in that too. So again, these foods do kind of lend themselves to a dressing type of thing. So we'll try to do sort of similar with the artichoke, where I'm not being very precise on the chop, but I am just getting a little bit of strips going on so that when I do go to cut them the other way, it doesn't take me forever. So I kind of turn these, and then I can kind of come back through here and get some bite-sized situations. Okay. Okay. And these are soft, so even if you miss one and it's kind of bigger, that'll be a nice jackpot when you're eating your salad. All right, so we've got those in there. So we're gonna scoop all of this in here. And again, you're getting that oil, the vinegar, kind of some of the juices are all gonna blend together and go right in there. All right, now here comes the best part. Well, I guess it depends on what you like. All right, so with my wet hands, again, this might have been something I wanted to do ahead of time, but I think I can pull it off, literally pull it off. This is a pearl mozzarella, so I don't need to worry about chopping up the mozzarella into bite-sized things. So I'm just gonna open that and we'll get this over here. And so as you kind of pull these out, let's see if we can get this, here we go. So you can just kind of open these up and you just break them up and they fall out into these nice little bite-sized chunks. And just kind of make sure you're breaking them all up. They'll all break up in the mixing process. All right, good. Now, my Scoops has come to join us. All right, now in my final little jalapeno bites here, these are my favorite pickles, Wickles pickles. And we'll see that I've eaten all of the pickles out of these, right? So I like to keep the brine because it's a little spicy. And so I'm just gonna add a little bit more of this brine right in there to give a little bit more spice, a little bit more heat. And then we're just gonna mix everything together. Let's use our tongs here. And let's see, we've got this. I mean, so we've done a little bit of chopping, a little bit of jar opening, and we've mixed this all together, and it's delicious. There's no pits in here, tons of flavor, and our cleanup is pretty good, right? So our cleanup is really just our chopping board, and I've got my giant bowl here of my antipasto, which I can put out in a big bowl. I can serve it with some chips or crackers. What I'm gonna do is, like I said, I'm gonna split it up, put it over my arugula. I'll have 2 salads, and I'm not gonna use all of it. That'd be a lot of antipasto. I'll probably get a couple of snacks, a couple of salads out of this. If others are interested, they can help themselves as well. It's a fairly big batch, and the vinegar base is gonna keep it fresh so that things don't kind of come apart in it. And as I said, the vinegar is really good for digestion. So sometimes you'll hear like, oh, you should have apple cider vinegar, it's very good for you. So the vinegar kind of sets the tone in your stomach and the pH, and it tells enzymes when to activate and when to not activate. And so this is, you know, one of the health benefits of this. And plus it keeps it fresh. So when I do that over my salad and I'm gonna take it to work with me, I'll probably grab a can of tuna or some other proteins that I have so I can pop it on top of the salad there and have a nice, easy, big batch meal. So, and again, like I said, the cleanup's super easy. I'm gonna put the jars in the recycle or even use some of them for something else, wash down my chopping board, and I'm good to go. So really doesn't take a lot of time. And it's a good spring if you follow Ayurvedic medicine. It's a good springtime treat for yourself, for your liver, with the vinegars and things like that can really kind of help out there. And it is a little bit lighter than some of the cream or mayonnaise based dressings that you might find. It really doesn't need any more dressing than what it has. So enjoy. I hope you try it out. And, you know, feel free to go in and throw, you know, maybe if you like capers, you'd put capers in there. You can be a little bit creative with this. So if you're not a fan of Kalamata olives, well then don't put them in. You don't like jalapeno stuff, don't put them in. Choose something else. But this is a quick and easy prep for you, and then you've got something nice and healthy sitting around for you. All right, guys, thanks for joining me on this episode of The Kitchen, and welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the new kitchen. Happy to take your requests and let me know some more questions so we could create some more videos that can be helpful for you guys. All right, thanks, guys.